I'm going to turn my MX-5 into a sort of supercar. Some of you might have heard of a company called BBR. They're an MX-5 specialist who modify and convert MX-5s to be not such weedy hairdressers cars. I've actually already got their 4-into-1 catless manifold, which took the car's power from the standard 160 horsepower to over 190, but 190 does not make a supercar. What does is BBR's supercharger kit. So my car is a 2009 NC generation MX-5. Now there's 3 different versions within the NC generation. You've got the NC1, which is the kind of more ugly and has a worse engine MX-5. You've got the NC2, which is my car, with the updated engine, but isn't the most modern version. Then you've got the NC3, which I think ran to like 2015 before the ND replaced it. Now, my car's got 168 horsepower as standard. This one's got 190, and I've got a few different mods, like you can see the bucket seat, different suspension, and that 4-into-1 exhaust manifold I mentioned earlier in the video. And it sounds like this. And here at the engine, it sounds like this. Yeah, so not particularly impressive. So I think it's time to head over to BBR, give them my keys and a wad of cash. So the car is back. It was gone for a week. It actually only took BBR 3 days to fit the supercharger kit, which is pretty damn quick if you ask me. Final result, 260 horsepower. So we're almost 100 horsepower over stock. We're 70 horsepower more than we used to be. Torque is obviously up as well, 280 Newton meters with a super flat curve. But what does it drive like? Well, you'll have to wait until a bit later in this video, because now I'm going to give you a breakdown of everything that went into the supercharger kit and also how much it costs. So I'm going to keep this brief. Rotrex supercharger, BBR supercharger bracket. We've got the Rotrex oil reservoir here because the Rotrex doesn't use oil from the engine. It uses its own oil that goes through these AN line fittings. You've obviously got all the hard pipes here, silicone hoses with BBR branding, different injectors under there, which I of course can't show you. I don't recognize this from before. I think it's something to do with the ECU, but that's something. There's a map sensor somewhere around here. I think it's here. You also have different hoses here. Again, BBR branded, which is really nice. Under here, hopefully you can see it. There is the intercooler in there. There's also hidden in here a cold air intake, which feeds up into here. And that is pretty much it. So I'm sure there's some stuff that I've missed. If you want more information, go onto BBR's website and it lists everything that goes into the kit. That's the best thing to do because I am not an expert. So finally, as for the price, you're looking at $4,995, drive in, drive out. You do have to add the VAT on top of that, but it seems pretty reasonable for all the things that go into making this conversion. And the biggest change is of course the noise. That supercharger makes a really unique noise, nothing like the kind of old Mark II supercharged cars that use the Eaton supercharger from a Mini. It doesn't whine, it does something different. So here's what it sounds like now. At the back, it now sounds like this, which isn't actually that much different to before, but there's a good reason for that. So unlike a turbocharger, the supercharger does not do anything to the exhaust. I've still got that same 4-into-1 catless manifold I had before, and then it's a standard center section and standard back box. A turbo, on the other hand, plugs into the exhaust to turn that turbine inside the turbocharger in order to create boost. And that's where the main difference is between this system and the turbo. Then there's also the power delivery, which probably leads us nicely into me actually driving the car. So immediately you can feel the increase in torque. You don't have to rev it anywhere near as much to get up to speed. Now, cruising along, if you're not in boost, I wouldn't know it's supercharged, basically. It just feels like my car did before. But now, dual carriageway. Oh! Oh my God! Got another roundabout, we'll do it again. Right, so everything's normal. Brilliant in the corners, as ever. And we're having a very UK driving experience here. Kia won't move out of the way. There we go, right, floor it in 3, 2, 1 now. Flipping heck. and that's 70, it just feels like a 3-litre V6 up there or something. It's just, there's just more. It's very good. So now it's time to see how big a difference this supercharger kit is going to make to the car's 0 to 60 mile an hour time. I've done a quarter-mile time in a CarWow video, which is actually my day job, which will be coming out soon. So I'll put the link into the description so you can see how it did in there. Spoiler, it's quite quick. It's quite quick. So one of the other additions with the supercharger kit is obviously you have to remap the car. And as part of that, you get race run features. So if I hold my cancel button, you'll see that the needle for the RPM moves, and that's because this now corresponds to modes. So 1 is normal daily mode, 2 is essentially race mode, and then I think you've got 3 and 4, one's like a valet mode, and then the other one is for if I can't put 99 in and have to put 95 in a pinch, basically, it won't grenade the engine. So essentially, all you have to do for launch control in this car is have to be in mode 2, so we're in mode 2. You put it into first, and then if I rev it out, you'll see it'll engage launch control. So it sits at 4, which is great because then you don't have to try and modulate the throttle while, you know, maybe holding a bit of handbrake and all the rest of it. So that's really great. And I can also, by using the cruise control speed up and speed down buttons, I can adjust the RPM that I launch at. So when I was doing that drag race, we were launching around 4.5, 5, generally seemed to be the best. You do get a bit of wheel slip, but you need a bit of wheel slip for a quick 0 to 60. So anyway, I'll stop chatting and we'll just get on and do it. Yeah, 60 is that fast now. I couldn't even speak, to be honest. I was trying to concentrate. The way it grips off the line is really impressive. It's obviously the same car apart from the supercharging kit, but it flies. It's really good. So the 0 to 60 was kind of bang on what I was expecting, mid-5s. That's really impressive. I think it could go a tiny bit quicker, like maybe 5.1-ish. If I had slightly better tyres. Now I've done 3 track days on these tyres, and I think like the heat cycling has maybe taken a bit of life out of them. I could probably also improve it by slightly adjusting the RPM and also doing it on a different road, but I wanted to test it in the same place that I've done it previously. So speaking of previous launches, I'll overlay a split screen now of my previous 0 to 60 before the supercharger kit and the one I've just done. So finally, this is the part of the video where I have to come clean. So is it a supercar? No. It's a very good sports car now. The main issue with this car was the fact that it lacked power. And don't get me wrong, I know that everyone's going to be commenting saying MX5s aren't about power, they're not about quarter-mile times, they're not about 0 to 60s. I've got one, I totally agree. And this car was great with stock power. It was a lot better with 190 horsepower, and it's absolutely fantastic with 260 horsepower. I may at some point do the extra modifications that BBR require to do 300 horsepower, but to be honest with you, it just isn't required. And I think there's something to be said for having just enough power to like brake traction and play with the throttle, but not too much that it becomes difficult to handle. So overall, is the BBR supercharger kit worth doing to your car? I'm biased because I've got it, but I would say yes, and it just depends on a couple of things. How much are you going to drive the car? Because I would imagine there is more wear and tear on it than, you know, a completely stock MX5 and other costs like insurance, that kind of thing. But if you go out to enjoy your car, and don't get me wrong, it's totally dailyable, but if you go out and your intention is to just go and have fun, enjoy your car, take it places, and maybe occasionally take it on track, it's a really good investment. And especially if you haven't paid top of the market for your car, then you can be in it for about 12, 13,000 pounds, and then really there isn't another car out there that can give you the same thrills on the same budget. So yeah, it's totally worth it. Now if you enjoyed the video, please consider subscribing, like the video, maybe comment, please only say nice things, and I'll see you in the next one. It might be about this MX5 or it might be about something else. Who bloody knows?